Politics and bodybuilding are alive and well. Dorian Haywood did not beat Phil Clahar at the Masters Olympia, not any more than Don Youngblood beat Vince Taylor back in the day. Politics and bodybuilding are alive and kicking, now more than ever. If you want to live in denial, if you want to be an apple polisher, that's on you. But not here, my friends, not here. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Strength Addicts on all social media platforms, powered by IronMag Labs. Make your mark with IML. Visit ironmaglabs.com today. I let everybody speak, do their podcasts, write their articles, drop their hashtags. The Masters O was August 9th and 10th. It's Sunday, August 17th. I put out a couple of reels on Friday, just kind of scraped the surface. Phil commented, had a good conversation with Phil off the record, and will remain off the record. Few people left comments, most people did not. They sent DMs, they sent text messages. A couple people called me, had some nice, interesting chats. But it's the conversation I had with Phil that sort of shed a lot of light on what I suspected to be another example of many, but possibly one of the most just dastardly of recent memory of politics, of payback. Certain things he said about one particular individual, it was like, that's it. That's it. Sometimes it may take weeks or months or years, but you can rest assured. I saw that name, I knew it. I knew it. I've been at this for far too long, folks. Almost 20 years. I was in the fold. I was in the Pittsburgh circle. I wasn't in the orbit. I was in the circle. Not a long time, but I was in the circle. But that notwithstanding, what's the ages-old wisdom in bodybuilding? Shows are won and lost in the prejudging. Phil was winning in the prejudging. He was dominating. No disrespect to Domenico, to Todd, to Dorian, but that was Phil's show. And after the prejudging, everybody thought Phil was going to win. I mean, he said it himself on one of the podcasts. When Domenico and Germasio took third, he knew he was going to win. He was absolutely shocked, as were we all, when he took runner-up. The only person more shocked than the rest of us, Phil included, I think would have been Dorian. He had no business winning the contest. So why did he? Like I said, what Phil and I talked about will remain off the record. But, if you want to be an apple polisher, if you want to live in denial, if you want to promote an alternate reality where politics and bodybuilding don't exist, that's on you. Do with your platform what you will. Me, on the other hand, I was rah-rah for the Federation, and I probably wouldn't have made a video like this when I was covering shows 3-4 weeks out of the month, but at that time, I also thought that was family. I also thought there was some sort of loyalty. And all it takes is some remarks or unpopular positions on controversial topics, and you will find yourself on the shelf. 5 years later, I'm still on the shelf. It wasn't because I was flirty on IMs or DMs or whatever. It wasn't because I had some words with a couple of competitors or an official or whatever. All true. But it was because of unpopular opinions on unpopular points. It was because I was starting to think for myself. It was because I was a little bit too outspoken, and I was not really checking in with people before making comments. For most of the Strength Addicts run, because I've been doing this since August of 2008, and only from about 2017, I would say, to 2019, right before the pandemic, is when I was in this weird, just cookie cutter, apple polisher, kind of kneecap sucker mode. And I kind of got a little tired of that, and I think subconsciously I figured that I had earned the opportunity to maybe march with certain causes and actually talk about certain things and really not sort of whatever. The point is that I got myself put on the shelf. And, I feel like if you criticize judges or criticize people with a certain last name or criticize the way things are done, and you do so from a platform, and you do so as someone with a major voice in the sport, you might see yourself get screwed out of a win at a show or out of a sponsorship, out of a press pass. These things may happen to you. There's a reason why I think that the Black Prince, Robbie Robinson, never won an Olympia against Frank Zane, even though he deserved to have won. He certainly had the physique. He certainly had the size. He certainly had the posing abilities and the wherewithal to promote the sport all around the world and really grow it. But his outspokenness, his individuality, his sort of, I think maybe bravado, his reluctance to be a sheep, all of these things, I think, were the reason why Frank always beat him and why Arnold went on to win and Franco, and in other words, why he was never allowed to win. And I say allowed to win because he should have won. And who knows if that's why Kai Green never won. I'll tell you that Kai Green was a lot more of a leader, is a lot more, but in the time frame I'm talking about, was a lot more of a leader and would have been a lot more of an advocate for the athletes and a lot more of a critic against the wrongdoing had he had Mr. Olympia ahead of his name than Phil Heath would have been. Phil Heath was well behaved and did as he was told. Remember Ronnie Coleman with his now infamous, I don't say famous, I say infamous speech of why complain? Well, why complain was a speech that Ronnie gave at an Olympia press conference, basically shooting down people like Sugar Sean Ray, Bob Ciccarello, and especially Lee Priest, who were championing the cause of all Olympians walking away with some kind of money in their pocket. And Ronnie was like, well, I took 15th, I took 11th, I took 9th, I didn't make money, I didn't complain, why complain? And then Wayne DeMilia at the time, who was an apple polisher for Pittsburgh at the time, and everybody else in the room started applauding and celebrating. Ronnie was basically being a Federation lackey. That's not something Phil Clahar would do. That's not something Robbie Robinson would do. And that's maybe why Robbie never won an Olympia and Phil did not win the Masters Olympia in Tokyo just a week ago. Or maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?